Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us at today's webinar, Engineering Careers for New Canadians. We've got a wonderful webinar lined up, so grab a notebook, grab a pen, and get ready to learn. So a few things before we get started. Feel free to interact with us. There's a chat feature you can use at any time during the webinar if you just want to say hi. Or if you have a question at any time during the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A feature. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. In addition, we have a survey. Filling out our survey, super short 1-minute survey, will give us a bit more insight into how career loans can deliver future webinars. I'll send out an email, so don't worry about writing down this URL, but I'll send out an email to everyone following this presentation. Now, who's here today? Hi, everyone. My name is Gavin. I am the content developer with the Career Loans program. Today, we have two guest speakers, Michael Walker and Delee Silvius. And I'm also joined by Cheryl Murray, who is my colleague from Career Loans. Before we get started, though, what is Career Loans? We have a very short video I want to show, which highlights the program.
I'm Rianne Mendoza, and I came to Canada from the Philippines last year in November.
Hello, my name is Ifoma. I came to Canada June 2019.
My desired occupation in Canada is a privacy lawyer.
And my desire is to work as a medical doctor in Canada. The major challenge that I was facing was financial.
I don't have the sufficient resources in order for me to enroll.
I used part of the money that I got from Career Loans to register for the first part of the exam.
I was able to enroll in the training programs to becoming a privacy professional,
To buy a mini laptop that I would use to prepare for the exams.
to purchase all the required texts,
Ever since I applied to Career Loans, I can say that my career outlook is definitely brighter.
I will also be getting my certification for Asia.
Because I've gotten the assistance that I needed. I've been able to register for the exams.
I am now more prepared to become a privacy professional in Canada.
Things are looking brighter. Yeah, I just feel like, I'm getting closer to my goal.
And thanks to Career Loans, I am now more confident and in my way towards my journey of becoming a privacy professional here in Canada.
All right, so as for today's schedule, I'll be introducing our first guest speaker shortly, but we will be hearing two presentations, one from Michael and one from Delee. Afterwards, Cheryl will be joining us to talk about how the Career Loans program can help internationally trained engineers such as yourself. The video showed a bit of it, but Cheryl will be giving a more in-depth presentation. After Cheryl's presentation, we will move on to our Q&A. So like I said, anytime during today's webinar, if you have questions for Michael, Delee, Cheryl, please leave them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So first, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Michael Walker. If you could please turn on your camera, Michael. Thanks for joining us today. So Michael is a trusted advisor to his clients, a professional civil engineer registered in multiple Canadian provinces and territories and in Texas. Additionally, he's a certified project management professional through the Project Management Institute and a certified RPAS pilot. Following his graduation from the University of Alberta's Engineering School, Michael wrote the FE and PE exams to enable himself to have increased mobility with his career. With the support from the Saskatchewan and Canadian Association Consulting Engineering Companies, Michael enrolled in the FIDIC Future Leaders Management Program, which taught him valuable lessons about working and operating in consulting companies across different countries. He now teaches this course to hundreds of students to help them advance their careers and better the industry. Thank you for joining us today, Michael.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, great intro there. So I will just share my presentation here.
The floor is yours.
Awesome. Just let me know when that comes up.
Perfect. You're good to go.
Awesome. So yeah, and Gavin gave a great introduction. So thank you for that. And thank you to everyone for attending today. This is awesome. I really like helping people definitely new to Canada as well as on the international side. So my presentation today is going to be titled Canadian Engineering Career Paths, Details of the Education, Research, Owner, Contractor, and Consultant Roles. So you might say, you know, why me if I'm on a consultant side? Why am I speaking about all of these? And I've actually been in each one of these roles. So Gavin talked on the education that I do with FIDIC, teaching young professionals about the Rainbow suite of documents. If you're from pretty much anywhere other than North America, you're probably already familiar with those. I worked on the owner's engineer side on some large projects. I've worked as a contractor for a couple of years, and then currently as a consultant. So I'll go through all those. I haven't worked on the research side, but I'm pretty sure we can figure that out. So, all right. So first thing, we'll go on the education option for you. So if you've graduated, you have some skill sets, maybe you'd like to go and teach. Generally, the employment for this would be at your universities or any of your technical colleges. Generally, it requires a higher education, like a PhD or a master's, depending on what you're teaching. And generally, you're looking at very specialized subjects. So if it's somebody coming in with a undergrad in maybe civil engineering, maybe there's not as many job options for you there. As well as overall, there isn't a large volume of job openings in education and tends to be a little bit lower turnover. The upside that we do see, and I'm just using the APEGS 2020 salary survey, which Delee, I think, will speak to a little bit as well. But basically what it does is it breaks down the reported salaries for professionals in Saskatchewan. So in each one of these sectors, I'll just have a nice little colorful arrow here highlighting which one we're talking about. So on this one, you can see it's a large range from down to 50,000 upwards of, you know, almost at 225,000 Canadian per year. But with the averages being in this kind of big yellow box. So again, we see this with lower turnover positions. They tend to have a little bit of higher wages, but that again is because you tend to have the people with the PhDs and that sort of thing. So anyway, next slide. On the research side, usually we have this as part of the owner, which would be a government or education setting in Saskatchewan. It could be in the manufacturer if you're doing quality assurance or quality control. So kind of same thing as owner sometimes. And there are some limited rules on the contractor side, but a lot of these are actually outside of Saskatchewan. So it does depend. One good example of this, though, is Sask Power's carbon capture research happening. So again, the owner, in this case, Sask Power, is a government entity. and they're doing significant research on carbon capture and sequestering in southern Saskatchewan. So if this is your passion, maybe on the industrial side, definitely an option for you there. Now, the research really could fit into a lot of these other sections, so a large variety of potential wages for you. However, if you do take kind of the average, it's, you know, I think over 100,000 is quite reasonable. So again, if you're looking at investing in your career, getting that return on investment, being able to, you know, make that back, generally these are decent options for you as well. Then we get into the owner side. So in Saskatchewan, we do have a larger government than maybe some other provinces. Really, it depends. But depending on which country you're coming from, you might be used to a large government that has a lot of in-house engineers, or you might have a very small government that has a lot of consultants or contractors or that sort of thing. So I just wanted to highlight this, that, you know, it could be federal government, provincial, municipal, or even private companies. I've got Apple and Nutrien on there. But basically, it's an entity that possesses assets and can also produce them. It could even be a large farm in some cases if you're on the agricultural engineering side. So the difference is, if you're working for one of these, you're solely providing solutions and products or engineering advice for that entity and not for anyone else. There is good availability right now, depending on the owner size. We are seeing some fluctuation on the provincial government, so there could be some changes in that. But really, in Saskatchewan, especially for people coming in looking to get local experience, which is very critical for your success, different levels of government can be a great option for you. There's definitely downsides, ups and downs to everything, but we do find that there's a lot of good learning opportunities through government entities in Saskatchewan. So some good examples of this, and I mentioned the Crowns earlier with Sask Power, and that's just what they're called here, is Crown corporations owned by the government. There's 20 of them currently. Ones that we see engineering with large opportunities are Sask Power, Sask Energy, SaskTel, and Water Security Agency. There's a whole bunch of other ones as well. You could just Google Saskatchewan Crowns and you'll get a big list of them. Generally, oh, and sorry, Sask Research Council is on there as well. So that's something that kind of between the owner and research side of things, you could be looking at. So anyway, great options there. I work with lots of great engineers. I've got lots of great friends that work for each one of these companies. Tend to have lower turnover, can start some decent wages, that sort of thing. So let's, again, on the owner side, you could be in a number of industries. If Sask Energy, that's resource, oil and gas, maybe utilities for Sask Power, maybe other. So still good earning opportunities on the owner side. I'd say the downside for these is you generally get to work on similar projects for the rest of your career. So you can have a risk of being pigeonholed, but some people love that. Some people love working the same thing day in, day out, and that's what they find really drives them. So it's finding balance for whoever you are, what you're looking for. Then we get on to the contractor side. There's a whole bunch of differences here, different business models, but basically what it is companies or corporations that build or rehabilitate stuff, or sometimes we talk about widgets, for a price. So they're getting paid for building a road, moving dirt, reclaiming an oil spill, something like that, selling pipe or putting pipe in the ground. So Vinci, if anyone's from France or in Europe, they've got a huge presence in Africa as well. They build a lot of roads, dirt movers, APEGS puts pipe in, Secure Energy, like these guys build things. So that could be, again, roads, it could be towers for power transmission. Basically, they're doing a service for those owners. And it could be even something like building a house. If you were a structural engineer looking for a job at a small firm, they might need an engineer for that. Again, could be in a number of industries, so you'd really have to look at this APEGS salary survey, which is available online for free. You just have to search APEGS salary survey. But again, good, pretty good earning potential in all of those roles. Generally, contractors have high turnover. So for somebody that's coming into the country, has some good opportunity for learning, but there is high risk and high reward. So you could get high bonus, you could get some decent wage, but you might not be working there for a long time. And that's generally because it is sensitive to funding swings. So right now the government is making a lot of highways and roads. So maybe working at a paving company is a great option for you. But if that were to go down, then not so great. And then we get to consultant, which is who I am right now. So I work for Associated Engineering. And basically the difference is here, if a contractor was doing work, a consultant is providing expertise, advice, designs, or thoughts for a fee. So we provide professional or expert advice in a particular area. So for myself, civil engineering, Arctic, you know, I don't do structural engineering. I can work as a project manager for that, but you want to make sure that that's what you're doing. So there is a huge variety of firms out there. And so I'm just going to really quickly go down the path of why would you hire a consultant? Because I know that some countries where people are coming from, they don't really have a consultancy market. So you might not actually know what this is. So yeah, we'll just dive into that really quick. So let's say that as an owner, you have a number of projects. So I've got just generic projects down the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I've summed the amount of effort for a full-time equivalent. So that would be a full-time person. And so each of these projects, you can see that in January, project 2 requires a full-time person to work on it. Project 3 requires half a person, and projects, 1 and 4 don't require any effort. If you sum that all together, you get the workload that this entity is going to have, and that helps you staffing. So you can see these big swings here. At the highest point, you might need 4.5 people. At the lowest, you might need less than 1.5. And that is really what how you get into that staffing side, and that difference is about 3 people. It's actually 3.1 if you do the math. So if you take the average salary, let's say 100,000 from those other options there, if a firm was to staff for this high peak, then anywhere that the effort is below, they have people just sitting there, not doing anything. So if you had 3 people, at that point, you'd have an excess of about $300,000 of wages that they aren't getting value for. So they tend not to do that. And then the other flip side is, in a fee, your wage generally only covers about a third of your total costs. So you've got salary, then benefits. If you work for the government, you've got great benefits. So this might actually be bigger. Overhead, you know, those big towers downtown, they're not free. And then depending which sector you're working in, there could be profit or not. So generally, each person is about 3 times their take-home wage. So if we were to put that together, you know, you've got pension, you've got medical, all that fun stuff. And you were to combine that with your graph before, you'll actually see that this firm, if they hire for the high point, they would have an excess of roughly 900, almost $1 million, if they're taking each person as 300,000. So basically what we do as consultants is we're experts that are brought in for a small period of time. when they need us, and we help augment the staff that are already there full time. So you can't have no engineers on staff at, say, the city of Regina. But as I've got, you know, our friend the doctor here sitting on the couch looking at his maybe his Facebook, we want to optimize the amount of time that he's working as opposed to sitting around doing nothing. So that's where we've got this group of consultants that can come in, really help out and staff for valleys and not peaks. And so this allows us, just like, you know, you wouldn't have a dentist on staff full time necessarily unless you need one. You go to the dentist, get the work done, and you leave, and you don't have the dentist sitting on your couch waiting around getting paid all day. So anyway, I love consulting. I find it's got some great benefits. I could probably talk about it for hours, so I'll try to keep this brief. Basically, we can be specialists, we can be generalists that are brought in. If a small town doesn't have the funding available to hire somebody full time, they can use us for a month and then shoo us away. So great project variety. I think I'm working on over a dozen projects right now. Great diversity. I'm working with City of Calgary, small entities, public works, a whole bunch of stuff. You get to work with a bunch of diverse people. You get as much independence and authority as you want. There's great opportunity for drive if you're looking to advance. Not exclusive to consulting, but I think it is, I am a little biased, but I think it's a great place for that. Every day is different, this is for sure. Continuous learning, we put a huge emphasis on continuous learning, huge opportunities for growth. Again, this is going to depend on what kind of firm you go to, but we'll cover that in a sec. Exposure to a wide variety of clients and challenges, and great networking opportunities. So I personally think these are all great things. However, what makes it great is also not for everyone. And I totally understand that. So some people don't like project variety. Some people don't like having every day being different, you know, showing up in the morning, not knowing exactly what the day will lead to. I find that great. Some people it scares away. So and then we get into different business models for consultants. So generally, we tend to see for new engineers to Canada, they tend to gravitate more towards the publicly owned larger firms. So I've got two examples here, AECOM, Stantec. There's a whole host of these. Or they tend to, if they do get their registration, usually they could either go huge or small. I, on the other hand, exist kind of in the middle. We're a medium-sized firm, so I work for Associated Engineering. We're employee-owned, and each one of these just has a different model. Cowie is international. They're from Denmark. They actually operate on a trust focus, so a little bit different. But if this is important for you, you could go buy stocks on the stock market, or if you're looking for ownership, you'd want to be on the right hand side here, and there's definitely benefits to ownership on the financial side. So it can take some time to get into, but I think it's good. And then for wage in here, again, a pretty decent spread on here. Probably down from 60,000 to whatever this is, just shy of 200,000. I know there's definitely people that can make more than 200. So just want to keep that in mind, what you're looking for, and there's great opportunities if you have that drive, that passion, you want to succeed. But again, consultancy, generally you're looking for an expert in the field, which requires Canadian experience. So you need to get that experience somehow to be able to then get your good return on investment. So we do have the group that I'm part of is the Association of Consulting Engineering Companies of Saskatchewan, which is a mouthful. But we can also help out people if you want to find different companies We work on the consultancy side for networking, help people meet each other, outreach to government on a lot of items, students, such as we do events like this. We work with professional development to get different skills. There's some recognition, you can win some awards, and then also work to improve the industry. So if you are looking to find, maybe, you've looked at Stantec and AECOM, but you don't know what other firms are out there, you can go to the ACC Saskatchewan website and just click on this blue button that says find a member firm. And it'll come up on filter options. You just hit the search, don't put anything in there. And what'll happen, or you can select if you want specifically. And what'll come up is if you're looking for, let's say, mechanical engineering firms in Regina, it'll pop open a list with 12 results. So if you're looking for a job, maybe you've put in 5 or 6 resumes and you don't know where else to go, and you do want to go in consulting, this is a great resource that we have so that you can click on these links, and maybe you didn't know about MMM Group or Rockford Engineering. You can get the contact information and then it's up to you from there. So as well, we also have listings by field of specialization. So let's say that you're a desalination expert from wherever, maybe you came from the Caribbean, and you can click on that and it'll bring up all the firms that deal with that. And it's a great resource for people looking for that. Because I know definitely if you are taking the time and spending the money on your career, and I've done that myself for my PE. I think I got 36 textbooks, which were thousands of dollars. You really want to make the best of that. So definitely lots of options for you out there. I could talk about this for a long time, but you can find any of that search thing at www.acec-sk.ca, and hopefully that is some benefit for you. So that's my presentation, and I will hand it back.
All right, thank you, Michael. And for anyone who has any questions for Michael, we will be having a Q&A session at the end of our overall presentation. So please use the Q&A section and we'll get to that in a few minutes. So thank you very much, Michael. I'm going to ask Delee to turn on her webcam now. Michael, you can take a breather. Okay. Hello, Delee. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
I just want to give a quick introduction to our audience about who you are, Delee. So Delee graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Systems Engineering from the University of Regina in 2007. She is a lead green associate and a project management professional. She's been working with APEGS as the Assistant Director of Registration since September 2017. Previous to that, Delee began her career in San Diego, California as an assistant engineer for a land development consulting company. Delee returned to Canada in 2009, where she has had experience working in both private and public sectors. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome, thank you. I'll just share my screen here, get my presentation going.
No problem.
All right, can you see the screen? Is this
great.
the wrong screen? Hold on.
No, you were good.
It should be the big screen here.
We see it on the big screen.
The big screen? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. All right, take it away. Thank you, Delee.
All right, well, thanks, Gavin. So as Gavin had mentioned, my name is Delee Silvius, and I am the Assistant Director of Registration with APEGS. So when I'll be presenting to you the application process and how you become licensed member with APEGS. So just a quick overview. So I'll kind of go through what an international graduate is. I'll take you through the application process. There are some special cases that I'll have a brief overview on. I'll go through the self-assessment and then the academic review process. When you're able to use that title and any next steps. There's a lot of information around this. So I am going to just make sure that you refer to the website and for any further information, because there'll be quite a bit of information on there. Okay, so in terms of what is an international graduate, international graduate is, or engineering graduate or geoscience graduate, is a person who's completed their bachelor degree outside of Canada. So if you have, even if you are a Canadian graduate, you have to still. If you have a Canadian graduate degree, you're still considered an international graduate. So it means that your bachelor degree has been completed outside of Canada. So you are required to apply to APEGS if you're going to be practicing, and that means you have to be licensed, and it is a legal requirement. So everyone has to be a member in training first. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. All applicants, including Canadian graduates, have to become members in training before advancing to that professional status. The member in training is a term that we use to encompass both the geologists in training and the engineering in training. So I'll kind of sometimes flip between all those terms. So you need to meet 2 of the 5 requirements for professional membership to become a member in training. And they are the academic qualification and the good character. So the remaining 3 requirements must be met before we become a professional member. However, we'll only be going to be focusing on the member in training requirements at this time. So you will be required to meet that good character guideline before becoming the member in training. So a summary of the guideline is, so you don't have a record of professional misconduct or incompetence. You haven't committed a criminal offense to which a pardon has not been granted. You have not been found at fault of a civil action relating to negligence, or you haven't cheated on any exams or made false statements on an application. So these are some of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're going through that registration process. If APEGS does become aware of something that suggests that a good character might be an issue, there is action that we have to take. The level of the academic achievement that is required is defined in the Engineering and Geoscience Professions Act, and it states in the Act that a bachelor level program of study in engineering or geoscience that can be recognized by council. So for you to be recognized by council, the program study must meet Canadian standard as set by the Engineers Canada Canadian Engineering Qualifications Board, or the Canadian the Geoscientists Canada, Canadian Geoscience Standards Council. So I'll kind of elaborate a little bit on this as we go through, but if you're looking for more detail on that, I would reference the website on that. Okay, so the application process that you'll have to go through, I'm showing you the standard process right now. So the requirements for this are, you'll have to submit an application form, and the fee is about $210. You'll need to submit a WES. So you apply to WES, and we'll have your ICAP course by course. It's a credential assessment. You might already have an ICAP course, the ECA. We actually don't accept the ECA, so you'll have to make sure that that gets updated to the ICAP course by course. We will then review your file. You might require that academic assessment fee, and I'll kind of get into more detail about that later, but that's also $210. You might have to submit a self-assessment. A program syllabus might also be required, and you only need to provide that as if you don't have a WES Canadian equivalent for your bachelor's degree in engineering, and you've graduated within the last 10 years. So you'll be notified by APEGS if that is a requirement that you need to provide. You also need to provide us with a proof of identification and a resume. And we like to make sure that those resumes focus on that technical experience, because further on, that might allow you to have a different result on your file. So I'll get into that a little bit later. So there are some special cases that you can have, and so only engineering has special cases. The geoscientists don't have any special cases. So the first one is you have a 4-year bachelor in engineering plus a Canadian graduate degree that's closely related to the discipline. The requirements for special case 1 are a little bit different. You still need the WES assessment. You just need the ICAP document by document though, not the course by course. The document by document actually includes copies of your academic documents. You also need a Canadian transcript, which needs to be sent directly from the university. You'll need your proof of ID as well as that, the resume, and that emphasis on that technical experience again. So these next cases have more detail provided on our website. So I would suggest that you refer to those if you think that you fall under any of these. Just keep in mind that if you are falling under special case 3 or 4, your WES assessment is not required. And it's also if you fall under these special cases, then the academic review might not be required at this time. So you don't need that academic assessment. So if you require a self-assessment, I'll kind of take you through what it is. So it's when you take your degree or your education and you use your WES assessment for this, and you use it to compare your education with the syllabi. So that's the CEQB syllabi or the GKE. This allows you to provide the opportunity to show APEGS how your background meets the requirements and meets that syllabus. So in order to complete the self-assessment, there are some information on the website, but in general, you want to make sure that you review the self-assessment instructions, and you want to make sure that you review all the self-assessment tables because you want to pick the one that matches as close as you can to your education. So then you're going to cross-reference your course-by-course listing, which is your WES, for all the university level education. And you're going to write in the names as it appears on the WES with the courses that you've taken beside the appropriate subject description. I don't have an example in this presentation to provide you, but we do have examples provided on the website, so that I think that would be more beneficial for you to make sure that you go and take a look at. So we want to make sure you emphasize that you do this well. You want to make it as accurate and as complete as possible. This is a guide that the reviewers use to assess your file. So it helps to ensure that your file is being assessed fairly and that it is done in an efficient manner. So we rely on you to tell us where the information is. We don't want to be having to dig for that information. So this is a really important step to take your time on and make sure you do it correctly. So the academic review process. So after all the required information is provided to APEGS, including, course description, that self-assessment if it's required, your application then changes to in progress, and then we forward the file to the appropriate technical reviewer. So the reviewers use that same syllabi to review your courses against that self-assessment that you've provided. The time it takes for us to complete your files is about 3 to 4 months. There are certain results that you might get. The approval is the best case scenario that you could get, and that means that you would be approved to be the member in training. Keep in mind this is not common and would only be possible for those that have a master's or PhD in engineering or geoscience. You could also get deficiencies. So the Academic Review Committee may determine that there may be deficiencies or gaps in your education compared to the Canadian requirement. Deficient subjects must be fulfilled by writing exams or taking university courses. Sometimes you might be able to fulfill your deficiencies by using PLAR, which is considered, it's an acronym for Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition. So essentially, you're using your work experience to show that you've covered off the course content. If you have more than 6 deficiencies, your registration would be denied. And then there'll be kind of a roadmap provided to you on kind of what options you have at that point if your file is in that denial stage. Confirmatory exams is another result that you might obtain. So you're assigned technical exams. You're usually assigned 3. It's often at the discretion of the committee to assign those exams. But APEGS is also looking to have that, looking to waive. We have it's using your experience, your 5 years of work experience, to waive those confirmatory exams, which is why when we suggest that you submit your resume, you're really focusing on that technical work experience, because we can use that experience to waive the confirmatory exams. So once everything is complete, so you've completed the exams, or you've done your deficiencies, or you've done the work experience portion, your application can then be approved. So just to keep in mind that most people do get assigned the exams or the work experience reporting. So for the time to get licensed, it could be, a lengthy process depending on kind of the results that you have been given. So we do allow to discuss your file with other people that you may choose. In order for us to be able to do that, you need to be able to provide us with authorization to do that. So this can be done by sending APEGS an email from the email address that we have on your file, so that we can discuss your file with others if you need assistance with anything. So when can you start working as an engineer or a geoscientist? So you don't need to be licensed to start working in your field, but you must be supervised by someone who is a professional engineer or professional geoscientist until you become a professional yourself. So as an engineering in training or geoscientist in training, you must also be supervised by a professional. So they both kind of work in that regard. In terms of title, so you are not allowed to use the engineering or geoscientist title until you've been approved as a member in training. Once you have been approved and you've paid your membership dues, then you are allowed to start using that title. When you do use the title, you have to make sure that you use it in full. So you have to use it as engineer in training or geoscientist in training. The acronyms EIT and GIT are not acceptable. In regards to next steps, so your ultimate goal is to become a professional engineer or a professional geoscientist. The remaining requirements to be met for professional licensure are you'll need to write the professional practice exam. APEGS also offers a law and ethics seminar for that to help prepare for that exam. You'll need to submit your work experience. So you'll need 4 years approved by APEGS using our CBA competency-based assessment program. You'll need a language proficiency. That's only if you have not, if you never took your degree in English. So if you took your degree in English, that would be considered covered. If you have any other things that you need to research or reference to, I recommend going to our website. There's a lot of information on there, a lot more detail that I've been able to provide for you today. So make sure you review that material, especially if you're applying to APEGS, because it's really important to make sure that you get everything in properly and accurately. So that concludes my presentation, and thank you so much for listening.
Great, thank you, Delee. So if you have any questions for Delee or Michael, please use the Q&A feature, and we will get to those questions. But before then, I want to invite Cheryl Murray onto the webinar. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Cheryl will be speaking about the Career Loans Program and how our services can help internationally trained individuals, such as many of yourselves in today's webinar. So without further ado, Cheryl, please take it away.
Okay, let me share my screen here with you.
Okay, looks good.
We're good. Awesome. First of all, I wanted to apologize if you hear any drilling. That's the beauty of working from home. So let me introduce myself. My name is Cheryl Murray, and I am the Information and Financial Counselor for the Saskatchewan province specifically. And so this is just an introduction to our virtual program. Now, let me tell you a little about career loans. We are fully virtual service for internationally trained individuals living in Alberta and Saskatchewan. We provide free career support services and assistance with a microloan application. And we also guide ITIs so they can return to their careers in Canada. Some of our program features include obviously the free career and financial counseling. We also have a low interest microloan, which can go up to a maximum of $15,000 and as low as $1,500 that can be borrowed. We provide referrals to province-specific employment services. And we also guide our ITIs in the accreditation process if that's needed. And we provide also alternative career options that may or may not be known to them. Now, who is eligible for the career loans program? ITIs, internationally trained individuals in regulated and non-regulated occupations and trade. Residents that are living specifically in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and who has an immigration status of permanent residency, Canadian citizenship, or convention refugee, with also a minimum Canadian language benchmark of level 5. Level 5 just meaning that you are able to understand and express yourself in English. You are able to go through courses and training as needed. So now, the benefits of being a member with career loans. First and foremost, you have access to excellent and expert career counselors who have been in this industry for a number of years, including myself. Latest industry trend, specifically for your occupation if need be. Exclusive content, such as today's webinar. We also have our blogs and training, everything else is online. And you have access to our live guest speakers, such as Michael and Delee today. Now, how can we help you? We come in 3 process. Our one-on-one counseling session, career counseling session, which is our virtual career counseling session, where we can determine career path and next step. We do our referrals as well. So clients can be referred to their local service providers in whatever services that they need. We have the connection and the referral capability, personalized referral based on your unique situations. And we also provide the microloans. So this is not mandatory. It's if interested, the microloans are available to you, and each counselor can help each client with their microloan application. So we facilitate the whole process to the very end. We don't just leave you, we carry you through or support you through. So a little bit more about our microloans. We have partnered with the bank HSBC. Now, what they do is they provide the loans, or they distribute the loans up to $15,000, as I mentioned before. Now, these loans are low interest loans, which are at prime +2. And currently that rate is about 4.45% at this time. The loan repayments are up to 4 years. So once that loan is dispersed, it is a bank loan. That loan is, you can complete that payment within a 4-year period. And the interest rates are fixed. They do not fluctuate. It will be consistent throughout the time of lending. And you continue your support with career loans through your counselors throughout the payment period. And as I explained, we are an information financial counselors. We can also support you through the financial literacy part and how to go about payments. eligible expenses. Now, once you show an interest in applying for a loan, there are different expenses or things that you can access with this. Credential assessments can also be used for the loan. You can use the loan for accreditation purposes, for going back to school, upgrading your training, material fees and equipments or books, anything career related, exams, licensures, memberships, associations, and union fees. And also because every individual is unique in their expenses or requirement, I suggest and encourage you to ask your counselor for more details if you have other things that you would like to put in your expense. So, from inception, Career Loans has been a virtual program. So we are completely free and completely virtual. All our services are offered free of charge to our members. All our services are performed virtually over the phone or online or any other platforms that may be useful to you or you're comfortable with. So signing up today for a free career support service, there is no obligations to take out a loan. As I mentioned before, it is if need be, it's not mandatory. And with that, you can see our how you can connect with us in Alberta and also in Saskatchewan. And you can follow us also on any of our social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Cheryl. So if there's any questions about the Career Loans program, please do feel free to ask us in the Q&A. We're going to be jumping over to that section now. So I'm going to ask Michael and Delee to both come back on to the screens, and let's jump into some questions. All right. So again, for anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section. Michael, I've seen you've typed out a few answers, so thank you very much. But just for the other participants, let's go over some of these questions.
For sure.
So I guess one of the questions someone asked was, are we just focusing on Saskatchewan today? Yes. So both Michael and Delee are based on Saskatchewan. But Michael, you talked about there are other provinces have their own groups. If maybe you can expand on your answer.
Totally. So ACEC, the group that I was talking about, we're talking about ACEC Saskatchewan. However, there are groups in each different province. So you've got ACEC BC. The weird ones are Alberta, that has CEA, Consulting Engineers of Alberta. Pretty much everyone else is an ACEC and then the province. So if you just type that in, Association of Consulting Engineering Companies, and then the province you're interested in, Ontario, territories, we have them all. You can also check the ACEC Canada group that I'm a part of. And then I also mentioned FIDIC, which is the international group. So again, if you are looking from different countries, if you're from the States, they're called ACEC as well. But I know that through my work with FIDIC, there are groups in a lot of countries and a lot of different places in the world. So definitely lots of options.
Thank you. And Delee, maybe you can expand a bit more about so APEGS is Saskatchewan based, but some of the other regulatory bodies in the other provinces are processes similar? Are they
No,
different?
they're different. So you have to go through every association and review their processes. So there might be times, but it's very rare that we would, look at your file and say, you might get a better result if you go to EGBC, but most times it's pretty consistent throughout. They are different though, so you do have to research all the provincial regulatory bodies in order to register individually. There are transfers though, so if you register for APEGS and you become a member, and you become a member in training, and you move to Alberta, for example, you can always transfer your membership over. We call it intern association, IMA. I know the credential. Thank you.
Internal transfer, yeah. I've done a few of those, and I must say that they are generally very smooth, pretty quick. I think I got my stamp in BC in like 3 days. So that was very quick. But there are other requirements depending where you're going. So if you're going north up to the territories, you do require an Arctic engineering course sometimes. So I think best thing is, yeah, call APEGS in this case, or the one that you're doing. They're very friendly, very willing to help, and they can help walk you through that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome. Michael, you briefly mentioned the idea about the Canadian experience in your presentation, and we had a question about that. Is having prior Canadian experience that important, or if you could maybe explain that?
Yeah, so in consulting, you're generally paid as a temporary expert to come in. So if you're doing municipal underground piping works and you're from Morocco, and there's no frost in the ground in Morocco, generally your pipe differences are significantly different. So here you wouldn't get paid as much to do that because you'd be doing a more junior level work and you'd need a senior to help you out with it. Now the trick is, and I have worked with a number of professionals that have done this, the trick usually is to get your foot in the door, get going, get the job, show your skill set. So for the question that we had, working globally with 15 years of experience, that experience is valid. It is valuable, I should say. However, there might be some little things that you're going to have to learn from the Canadian side. So depending on what you're doing, sometimes buildings are buildings, but you might be in more seismic area than not. So you might want to look at that. Generally, it's case by case. But just know that if you're coming in and you've worked for years and you made a bunch of money doing something, you have 15 years, it might not be that all of your 15 years are fully applicable to this. You might have to go back and get a couple fillers to top you up. But definitely, if you have the drive, if you are, willing to put in the effort, you can do some great things, both, on the consulting side and owner side as well. It's very similar. Generally, the consultant is going to put you with somebody that's more senior, a senior PN in this case, and they would help you.
Oh, is Michael stuck? Sure, you're still with me, right? Okay.
I think we lost him a little.
Yeah, Michael looks like he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Okay. We'll wait for him to come back, but maybe Delee, did you have any insights on the whole Canadian experience topic?
Yeah, I think, I think Michael was touching on it really well. You have to have, and it's a requirement of APEGS, you do need to have some Canadian experience in order to meet all those requirements as a professional. So, and he's right that, things do change from area to area. So, that global experience is important, but I mean, having that, Canadian experience is also very beneficial because the things aren't quite the same. And it goes like throughout the, even in Canada, it's in the US as well, right? So, you have to have, like, if you're in California, for example, and that's where Michael was referring to, is you need that, you might need seismic, right? Whereas, Saskatchewan, you don't need that, but I mean, you might need other things, right? So you just need to be able to apply where the engineering concepts and the provinces and territories that you're at. So,
Absolutely. Looks like Michael is probably having some internet connectivities. So we'll just try to answer a few more questions. This one is for Delee. You mentioned applicants can have assistance with submitting their files, right? Can have assistance. Could you give an example of a situation when that assistance is needed?
Yeah, so to be clear, it was more for if you want us to discuss a file with another person. So if you have another family member that you want us to discuss your file with, you need to give us written consent to do that. In terms of assistance, APEGS staff are always there to help with the file processes. There's always contact information on, I refer to our website in terms of what email to use. But if you have questions about your file or kind of where to go or what you need to do, there is a direct email that you can ask for assistance in that regard. But most of the information is pretty standard, and it's pretty detailed on our website. So as long as you're reading that thoroughly, the application process is usually pretty good.
All right, thank you. Another question for Delee, but this might be more of a particular instance. So let me see if I'm understanding this question correctly. Just wanted to know quickly if I am at the phase to complete my CBA. I'm a member in training. My exams are waived. I've been told to complete my CBA by APEGS, which I'm completing at present. So this looks like this audience member is asking more about the specific situation, right? So in this case, I would suggest them to get in touch with you.
Correct.
Directly, Delee, which will have your email address afterwards in this presentation.
Yes, that would be the best option. Yes, thank you.
Okay. We do have a question for Michael. Unfortunately, he's not here, so we'll pass that question to Michael and connect the speaker with that question as well. But as for questions, it looks like that's it. Yes. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. Because our final question, yeah, for Michael, I was working in IT. Oh, Michael is back. Okay. Let me get him in. Just in time.
Just in time.
Okay, so he'll be coming back in a second.
Hey, apologies, guys. My power went out midway there, so I had to restart my router. But
no. Back on the phone though, so that's all right.
On the phone, we got the phone back quickly. So
Michael, we're just about to end the Q&A session, but we did have one more question for you, Michael.
Sure. Awesome.
So the question is, hi, I was in IT, I guess in IT, but not working at the moment. I have foreign degrees. Can I register to be a member of ACEC SK? And what will be next? Thank you. Any suggestions for this listener?
Yeah, so you actually, and this is a common question that we have. You wouldn't be a member of ACEC because ACEC is the Association of the Consulting Companies itself. So if you use the companies such as Associated Engineering or Stantec, or if you had your own firm, you would be a member and you would pay a membership fee. However, if you just want to attend events and that sort of thing, you actually don't need to be a member. You can attend those events. You can do it as a student. You can do it as a professional. And you just need to get the contact information for those events and then register. So generally, those events are put out on Facebook. So if you follow them on Facebook, or if you contact Darlene at the office for ECC, she can put you on the email list for that. So no need to subscribe or pay a membership fee. But if you are interested, there are a lot of great networking events, learning opportunities, and that sort of thing. So I would definitely suggest that.
Awesome. Thank you. Just past 1 o'clock now, so I'm going to start wrapping up. No new questions. Awesome. So a bit more of a conclusion here. Let me share my screen once again. We do have upcoming webinars. So our next webinar is licensure for internationally trained engineers. That is next Thursday, actually. So we heard from Delee about APEGS today. This session on the 17th will be from APEGA if you're more interested in Alberta, the Alberta side of things. Next month, we have interview tips for new Canadians. That's on Thursday, July 15th. And that will also be a great webinar if you are a newcomer in Canada looking to build on your career skills. As for contact information, Career Loans Alberta and Saskatchewan, our information is right here, info.sk@careerloans.ca if you are in Saskatchewan. Michael Walker, his email is here, so is Delee's email. I will send an email followed up with everything, the recording, all the contact information. So don't worry if you're scrambling to write down all these emails. We will have the email with all that information. So that's going to be it for today's webinar. If Michael and Delee can come back on the screen, we'd like to say thank you one more time. It was a pleasure to have both of you on the webinar.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's great being here.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone, and see you at our next webinar. Thanks.